Hello, I'm Lisa Bonise, and this is Mind Yourself. Welcome to part 4 of my conversation with author and adventurer in being, Elizabeth Ann Hill, as we discuss new ways of living in harmony with universal truth and all that is. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're back with Elizabeth Ann Hill, talking about her remarkable journey around the world with no safety net. Elizabeth, when we last left off, you were having some difficulties. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about some of the amazing, miraculous, and synchronistic stories that happened as a result of what you were doing?
I'll tell 2 little short ones, maybe, and a little bit longer. For certain examples, like the universe has a sense of humor. It works through songs. And so one song that I had a lot during the journey was I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. And so I was in Scotland. Scotland. And I was trying to get to Belfast, Ireland. And so I arrived in this town and I had no money. I had some money, but not enough for a place to sleep. And I needed to buy a ferry ticket. So I decided, well, I feel that I've been guided to buy a ferry ticket. So I'm going to buy, there was no hostel or anything in this town. So I didn't have enough. So I bought the ferry ticket and I was so really tired at this moment. And so I went and sat in a pub. I'm not really a pub person, but believe me, I sat in a lot of pubs. And so I was sitting in this pub. Usually like someone would come, like I called them Elizabeth Angels, like somebody would come over and start talking and then it would somehow would lead to some help or maybe someone would PayPal me some money or something, but nothing was happening. And so I'm sitting there and then all of a sudden I hear U2. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Okay. I need to leave this pub. So what am I to do? And I remember this said, look up. So I walked out and I looked up and I saw a steeple of a church and I remembered, I walked by that church and it said something about a cafe in the church, which I thought, well, that's weird. And I remember I peeked in, I didn't see any cafe, but I realized, okay, I'm being guided to go back to that church. So I found the church and I walk in and, the cafe was set up. They had, it was a really wonderful church. They took out all the chairs and they would bring in a cafe and they would give free coffee and food and some pancakes and stuff. And I mean, obviously they were wanting to bring in new members, but it wasn't like heavy duty, trying to proselytize to you or anything, but they just said, come in. And so I was sitting there at this table and this man was there and the story kind of came out and he just stood up and he said, come with me. And I knew that's Elizabeth's Angel. So I knew it was okay. And he just said, come with me. And we went, he took me to the pastor's house because he had to run deliver something there. And so I got to meet the pastor and he was a man from South Korea and he started this church in Scotland and they were trying to get permission to have homeless people in the church. They were really lovely people, about really walking their talk. And he just said, he lived in a farm just outside of the town with his daughter and grandson. And he just invited me to his farm and I was so tired in this big luscious room, like a real old-fashioned farmhouse he made me the most delicious meal ever known to man. And then he packed me a huge lunch and then took me to the ferry the next day and off I went. So that was one little story about how it went. And so there was another one where I was in Belfast and I was in this hostel and I had stayed there for several nights and then I ran out of money and I sat all day going, no money came and no money came, nothing came. And 11 at night, I got, okay, leave, you need to leave. I got the guidance to leave. I'm like, okay, it's raining, it's 11 something at night. Are you kidding? And it was like, just go. So I went out and I thought, well, I'll go to the bus or train station and maybe sleep there or maybe someone will, whatever. So I'm walking and then I encountered a woman. She was a young woman. She was closing down a bar, a restaurant. And I said, do you know where the train station is or whatever? And she said, oh yeah, it's over there. But I mean, it's kind of late at night. What are you doing? And I told her, well, I don't have I told her kind of what was it. And she said, oh, come with me. Again, come with me. She was just an angel. And she was Catholic, and her confirmation name was Mary Catherine. Her name was, I don't know what her first name was, but Mary Catherine. So it was like Catherine Mary, my sister. Anyway, she just took me to her house and gave me a place to sleep, and we did my laundry and gave me food. And then the next day, she was a waitress. She went to the bank, pulled out money, and gave me enough to get onto the train and go to Dublin, because I'd been guided to go to Dublin. And so off I went. So it was always things like that, sometimes it was a person that would appear. So those are the types of things that would happen. And then I have a story about how I ended up here. Right now I'm in Gerrards Cross, England, at a convent, St. Michael's Convent, which that in of itself is very synchronistic, because all through the years when people do readings for me, they always say, "Oh, Archangel Michael is with you." Well, obviously Archangel Michael is the angel who gives people courage. He's like the police officers and people who need courage. And I can tell you the number of times that I've called on him. I call him Mickey. I'm like, "Mickey, help," So I'm at St. Michael's Convent in this wonderful place. But it was just a funny thing, because along the way, I ended up in Virginia. After my 5 years overseas, I came back to the US because my brother was ill, and I stayed with him for a while. Then I was invited to run this Airbnb in Virginia, this big country estate. It was amazing. A little cottage there where I would go in the weekends, and guests would come, and then I'd go back into this big house, and it was just unbelievably beautiful. It seemed like everything I wanted came true, because I had always wanted to do something like that, and I wanted to be in the countryside. I love farm animals. I was on a cattle farm. I fell in love with all the cows and bulls and was out in the field feeding them. It was just so all along the way, like dream come true situations were happening. And this wonderful friend who had followed my journey for years, it was her father's house, and she ran it as an Airbnb. So while I was there for a year. So I had this beautiful time just to relax, and got so it was the first time really that I had kind of a job. This was like a few years ago. So this is about 8 years into the journey. Like, it was kind of like she paid me a little bit, it wasn't a lot, but I lived there. And so anyway, it got towards the end of the time when I knew, okay, I have to move on, because it was very isolated. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and I just knew that I couldn't stay forever. And these trucks kept going by England, big, like the Crown, England. So I'm like, oh, I need to go to England. So I tried to go to England, and it didn't happen. And I found that's often the case. Like, I'll get guidance, but it's like, you're going to go via some other route. There was no plane ticket came. I didn't have anybody step forward and invite me or anything. So I'm like, well, fine. But in the back of my mind, for years, I've been saying, I want to go to New York City. I want to go to New York City so badly. I mean, I love dance, and I just had this dream. I had said this for years. I'm going to go to New York City at some point, and I don't care how good I am or whatever, but I'm going to take a ballet class at Joffrey Ballet, and I'm going to go to, and I just was and I got it. You're going to New York. And so I didn't have anything to get to New York. So I kept trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? And in my mind's eye, I kept seeing this man who had been following my journey for a long time. And I knew he lived in New York, not New York City, but I wasn't sure. I thought that he was pretty close. And he kept appearing in my mind. He'd actually been appearing in my mind for a long time that I was going to stay with him. Well, I couldn't approach him. So I decided to write a Facebook post. Is anybody in the New York area? I'm being guided. I'm feeling compelled. And within 2 minutes, he popped up in my Facebook and said, well, I live right outside of New York City. Why don't you come here? And that was it. I left this beautiful farm and went to stay with him outside of New York City in Peekskill, New York for 3 months. I helped him with some of his businesses. But the day came where it was like, we both knew I just couldn't stay there any longer, but there was really nothing had come, and he was concerned. And I'm like, look, that I've been in this situation before where I just go. And I had that many times where I get to the end of a situation, maybe somebody offered something and they didn't really feel like they could offer anymore, which is understandable, right? So I would just go with nothing. And I had done it so many times that I knew I could do it. But this is New York City, so it was kind of like, oh. But I said to myself, okay, if I have 3 nights worth of money for an Airbnb, I will go. And I put out a post, can anybody help? And within a few minutes, I had the 3 nights. And off I went with 3 nights worth of money to New York City. And so I was staying in Airbnbs. I stayed in an Airbnb. And then it was like, I went through these time periods where it was really challenging, because then every single night I didn't know where I was going to be. Like, I'd have to check out of the Airbnb and I'd end up in another one that night, but it was a different one. And it was every night, and it was so challenging. But looking back on it, that gave me the courage, because it was so on the edge. I would be in the Airbnb and then I would check out. And on top of all of that, I wanted to take dance classes. And so I would be sitting in a cafe, not knowing where I was going to be that night. But yet some money would come in. I had people that follow, and during these time periods, they always pop up and they would send money. But it was like, let's say it was enough money for food and a dance class, but not enough money for an Airbnb. And I would turn to Spirit and go, they'd go, dance class, go. So I'd go to the dance class, take the dance class, and lay on the floor. Dancers always are on the floor. So I'd lay on the floor. Because when you don't have a place to be in the world, it's very, very tiring. I hated it. I hated sitting in a public place, but I would lay on the floor in a corner in the dance studio and take a nap. And then the money would come and I'd go off to Airbnb. But this went on and on and on every day, go to the dance class, not knowing where I was going to be that night. And then I got the guidance, this internal guidance, to look on Craigslist. And I never got Craigslist. I'd gotten that guidance before, but it never really, I hadn't. People said, why don't you check Craigslist? And it never worked out. But that day it did. I found this live-in dog walking position. And it was so amazing, because it was 2 blocks from Central Park, 2 blocks from the Metropolitan Museum. It was the height of Manhattan. It was incredible. So here I am living in these billionaires' home. All I did was walk the dogs at night. They needed a night person. And I'm off taking dance classes. It was the most exquisite moment of my life. It was just, I'm in Grand Central Station. I'm like, ah. So that went on for a while, and then it ended. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? Because temporary job, they were moving. And so a friend got me into an Airbnb for 2 nights. And then I kept getting, go back to Penn Station, because I had left and I was in New Jersey. Go back to Penn Station. So I'm back at Penn Station. I'm sitting there, and I was getting monastery, because I'd always wanted to spend time in a monastery. So, okay, I looked at monasteries, and one said, come. Yes, you can come right now. And so I got on the train and went out of New York City and stayed at this unbelievably beautiful Holy Cross Monastery in New York. And I didn't have hardly any money, but I told them the situation, and they said, you can just stay for a month. It's okay. They didn't charge me anything. They fed me 3 meals a day. They were so lovely. I didn't want to leave. But while I was there, I met a nun, and I heard her talking, and that she was from San Diego. And I go, you're from San Diego? And she was about to leave in 30 minutes. And she said, oh yes, I became a nun recently. She said, I'm a retired musician with the San Diego Symphony. Well, my mother, who passed away in 86, was a violinist for the San Diego Symphony. And my father was a violinist also in San Diego. And she was like, not just knew them, but was like extremely close to them. Now we're in New York. This is San Diego. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
So she was going to England to go to many different monasteries, and I knew. And I was able to get a plane ticket, and off I went to England. And we didn't end up traveling together, because it turned out she plans everything to the last minute. It would have been very stressful for her, because I never know anything. But in the end, I ended up coming to one of them, and that's this one, St. Michael's Convent. And they're the same as the Holy Cross Monastery. They feed me. I have to have some money, because I have to have some meals. But I'm living in here at this place. I'm helping them out a little bit. And it's just so perfect and beautiful. And that's where I am now. So.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, you've been around the world and back, and in danger and out of danger, and terrified and blessed. You've really run the gamut. Your journey obviously is personal to you. Not everybody is going to be expected to give it all up and just trust in the universe to carry them. We all have our own individual journeys. So let's talk about how other people can apply what they're learning from your story to their own individual journeys?
Yes, well, definitely very few people are going to do this. This is my path, but it's just take what I've gained, the new energy ideas about how you can create what you want in your life, putting your focus where you want it to be, listening to your heart's desire. I mean, I wanted to go to New York City and dance. I did it. I wanted to live in the countryside of Virginia, or in a countryside environment. I did that. I wanted to travel the world. I did that. Yes, there were challenges. There's challenges in every life. But if you want to do something, you can do it. There's no, and I've traveled all over the world. I had never had money. And sometimes I went months and months without any money at all. But something would come to support me. I'd be staying somewhere where someone would be, and so in your own way, in your own journey, maybe if there's something that you want to do that you thought you couldn't do, now you can believe, well, maybe I can do it. And the steps will be given. You don't have to jump off the cliff. Like I said, each individual step, just listen, become aware of your inner voice and your inner guidance, and keep your energy high, and the answers will come. And so you can empower yourself. And once you're in that situation, then you'll be more free to give and help other people. And we can live in a more community-oriented way. You know your power as a being, and you know that there's no authority going to come take something from you. This is all just kind of a separation myth, and that you're safe and that you're lovingly supported. So
Yeah. Now, wouldn't you say that your journey has sort of gradually chipped away everything that you've learned about how to live in this world, that you really have had to let go of your past entirely?
Oh, everything has disappeared. I mean, all my family. I mean, I have one brother left, and I don't know. He's been dealing with illness, but it's like everything went away from me. I was married, I got divorced. I mean, everything, and all the belief systems, though. I mean, I'm completely ignore the world and all of its baloney, because it's just, the guides told me that you have to focus on you and your inner work, because you cannot be of service to the world when you're all wrapped up in the story of the world. So it's not that I think the world is not important. It is important, but it's an outpicturing of us. Mm-hmm. So we have to do our own inner work. But yeah, it's the shifts that are, I was telling you last night, the shifts that are happening in me are astounding. Like the physical healing and the sense of freedom, and more, it's like an upward spiral. So I go through these challenging moments, but then more and more and more, it's more loving, more giving. People are more loving and more giving to me, not because I'm being rewarded or something. It's because my energy is higher, and I've released through walking through them, I've released these limiting belief systems. So I'm able to attract to myself a loving, giving environment. And I every day I'm down to $0. And, at this point, I just ask, anybody want to help? And people do, because it's like I feel like there's a kind of a karmic contract with certain people that just keep coming and helping me. That's just their role that they play. Like you played your role of helping me endlessly in different ways. So yeah, it's been quite a,
yeah.
But it is for everybody. It's not just for me. Otherwise I never would have made it. When you make it through all of that without knowing that this is for the whole, this is for everybody.
Right. And didn't the guide say something like the greatest spiritual journey is to just be yourself?
Yes. Yes. There's no such thing as mundane versus spiritual. It's complete. And there's also not this myth that if you are spiritual, you have to give up everything and have nothing. There are people who do that, and at this moment I'm kind of there, but I always end up with beautiful things. I always end up with everything I need and want, just kind of in a different way. But just be yourself, and you can't listen to other people, because there are so many people in this world have people in their lives that try to tell them out of fear that they shouldn't be wanting to do something. I encounter people all over the world in hostels and places, like young people, and I knew I was there for that reason, but they wanted to do something and their family was telling them they couldn't. And I said, no, you can. And it was like, I was like the push that they needed. You can do it. And you just have to be yourself, like the real true you. Some people get sick if they don't. So, You gotta
Absolutely. Yeah, I
do
can
something.
testify to that. Illness. That's how I know that I'm not following my intuition, my guidance, my path, whatever it is, because I will get sick. So
Here.
so I focus on wellness. I focus on it from within and expand it outward, and then I find that my external circumstances are reflecting what I've started to build up within. And it feels to me, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, that your job is to sort of be a global ambassador to, as you said, you would meet these young people in hostels or older people. You've met people all over the world where
Yeah.
you having a conversation with them, while to you it might be, let's have a cup of tea and chat. To them, it opens up their life to something that they've never experienced
Yeah.
before. And I think that's probably why people on Facebook, you have, like you said, you have these people who follow your journey, and they're able to support you when you need assistance, your earth angels, because
Yes.
they get what you're doing.
Well, they're part of the journey. I believe that we have certain soul contracts. I mean, you are obviously one of them. I have a certain group of people that for whatever reason always come back again. And then I have like new people that come in for a while and they go and I see them a year later coming back, but they're drawn. And it's like, I can't do this alone. We're not meant to be doing anything alone.
Mhm.
And so when I need money, people do give money, but it's because I know that my supply comes from my infinite source. So if it's not that person over there, it's going to be that person over there. We all receive money through people. Think about it. You have a job, it's through people. It's just that because mine's not one-to-one, like, okay, I sold this book and got this many, people don't necessarily think that's a job. But I call myself an independent contractor for the universe because I really have been sent in some places where people were really unconscious and they kind of needed to be hit over the head. Nobody wants that job, but I had to do it, but
Right.
all different situations where people, individuals, and sometimes groups, I brought something and they brought something to me because I needed a place to stay and food to eat and
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And it
Right.
was always mutual.
I think one of the things that you've learned is that once you have what you need, once your needs are met, it's a lot easier to understand the possibilities that are available to you.
Yeah, I mean, once we start to, because I've seen it, it's experiential. It's not like you just read a book.
Mhm.
Reading a book is a good thing, but I think people need to maybe do it a little less intensely than me. But I came in with that personality. And in fact, the guides told me that you came in specifically, you were specifically chosen for this because of your energy and your level of determination to stick to your true heart.
Mhm.
So they said that was very powerful. So, trust me, not everyone's going to do this, but once you start to see in maybe smaller ways how maybe you run out of money one month, or maybe you can't pay a bill, or maybe something happens where you lose your job.
Mhm.
I have people contact me and say, I've lost my job and I'm so terrified. I know this is counterintuitive, but look what I was guided to do. Become like a child. I mean, it's about energy. It's not about doing. I mean, there are moments when you need to take action, but it has to be inspired action.
Mhm.
And running off like a wet chicken with your head cut off, trying to figure it out, will lower your energy and make it much, much harder for doors to open. Believe it or not, if you go sit in a park or you go sit at a beach or something and you get still and you just calm down and you meditate or you pray or you do something, you would be absolutely amazed at what miracles will show up. A person will show up, money will show up, an idea will show up. It's not going to come when you're all uptight like this,
Mhm.
it doesn't happen when you're struggling.
Mhm.
And we
Right.
all know this because we've all heard about the law of attraction, but I think it's just, I mean, even to this day, I still do it myself. I'm like, hello, how many times do you have to do this before you remember? I mean, I do. I have moments where I've had to, and I'd be in a place where I didn't have something and I would just, for whatever reason, freak out. And I knew better, but it was usually because I was tired. When I was tired, all bets are off. I was so tired.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting there and I just want to go lay down somewhere and I start to freak out. And the moment I calmed down, poof, in came the answer. And in fact, a couple of times I was so freaked out, I was having a meltdown in this one place. And I said, I need money now. And boom, it came just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I hit my point of I'm at that limit, I need the money, I need to eat, I need it, now it came. So you're not going to get your soul, your own higher self, which is guiding this boat, is not going to give you more than you can handle. But just, so there might be challenges. So the minute there's a challenge, don't go running away. In fact, the point is to be able, it's one thing to sit in a beautiful place in a meditation sanctuary and be calm. But when you're in the midst of chaos,
as you have been,
it has to be integrated. So you have to learn to take that meditation that you've learned and that walking in nature that you learned in the midst of craziness. Some person's right in your face or whatever. Keep going. There's a feeling, it's right here. I was talking to you about this yesterday. When they say be in the present moment, it's not just that your mind is in the present moment. There's an actual presence. And the word that the question you can ask is like, am I aware right now? Am I conscious? Am I connecting with my soul? And you can literally feel it come. Oh, okay, there it is. It's like this weightiness in your center. I call it, the word that came to mind the other day was gravitas, which gravitas means seriousness, but it also means like confidence and weightiness. And there's feeling that comes in, and that's presence. It's not just that your mind is in the present moment. You have to bring it in, center yourself, bring that, stop and say, okay, God, whatever word, I got this book came to me in a laundromat about centering prayer. All centering prayer is that you pick a word. And for me, God, it just means infinite intelligence. It's not some Santa Claus in the sky God. So I use the word God because to me that's the most powerful. And I'll meditate, and then when my mind starts going away, I'll just inwardly kind of say the word God, and it brings me back again and again. And you just sit with that energy. It is so powerful, you cannot believe it, because that is your soul. So yes, you have to put all this together. It can't be reading a book, going to a meditation retreat. Yeah, that's great. But if you can't bring it into your life, feet flat on the ground, chaos swirling around you, then it's not integrated yet. Right. You got to be like that mighty oak tree and put your roots down and say, I am guided, I'm loved, I'm cared for.
And I want to reiterate here, because we couldn't possibly tell every single thing that you have experienced, but I want people to know that you have experienced some of literally the most terrifying things that a single woman traveling alone in strange countries at night with nowhere to be, you've experienced some horribly scary things. So I want people who are listening to know that she is talking to you. We're not talking about, just tra-la-la surface problems. You really have plumbed the depths of human suffering, fear, terror, compassion, the things that you have received. You're not just gabbing.
No.
So when you're saying that this is how you overcome these horrible, well, horrible is a subjective phrase, but you've overcome some things that everybody in the audience here can absolutely relate to. You aren't just scratching the surface. So when you say to these people, this is how you make it through what we view as deeply terrifying, horrific events, this is how you overcome.
Yes, and you will have both sides of the coin if you truly are you're opening to your soul, because you have to release limitation. And I know some people say, well, that's not true. It doesn't. Well, I'm sorry, but it is true, because this thing that's coming up is what's standing between you and freedom. It doesn't always have to be hugely traumatic, but if you see a trigger come up, if your mind just ruminates over it, it's telling you there's a trigger there. There's something for you to look at. Maybe look back in your childhood. When did that happen before? Do this inner work and say, okay, how can I do it differently? Can I be less triggered and just let it go and forgive the person because they, whatever. So it's about again and again trying to do things differently than you did before. And sometimes things will repeat. And so the ultimate outcome, though, of all of this is it's not just for the sake of causing you trauma and punishing you or something. It's because it sets you free and it allows more abundance to come in and allows you to live a life that you want to live. So yes, I had unbelievable, and when people read the book, they're going to be pretty stunned because some of these things were really intense. I mean, I was threatened with police and jail, and I was threatened with all kinds of things. And I just had that mighty oak tree right here because I had been told I was going to be doing this. Thank God I was told, I never would have. But afterwards, like I said, there was like literally, I could feel like something was peeled away. You never go backwards. Like sometimes something will come back again and you're like, what is this coming back again? But it's never going backwards because every time, if I had a challenge coming back, it was always less intense, always easier. And when something repeats, that's the thing that you as an individual need to overcome, but it will get better and it will get better and it will get better. I mean, I have lived everything that I've wanted to have. I mean, I wanted to be on the beach in San Diego. I did that. I wanted to do the Airbnb in the Virginia. I wanted to spend time in England. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to go to my grandfather's birthplace in Italy. I did all of these things. Yes, the challenges were pretty intense, but I'm just saying that you can do what you want and you can have what you want, but if you let your soul or your higher self guide it, it may seem like you're going in completely the opposite direction, but trust that because in the end you'll see, oh my God, I got it. I got what I wanted. And I'm much freer than I ever was before because I don't have the same fear that I had before.
Yeah.
That's why you face fear.
Yeah. You seem to have faced your own personal deepest fears.
Oh, yeah.
So would you say that you are now fearless, or do you think you
No,
still?
I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't. No? Fear is layered, but pretty, I mean, compared to the vast majority of people, if someone was living in my situation right now, like I have to leave this country by December because I only have 6 months to be here. I don't have any savings. I don't have any idea where I'm going. Like most people will be pretty terrified. I'm completely like, oh yeah, this is just the fact that I have, when I was doing the day-to-day thing, if I had 1 or 2 nights paid for, I'd be in cloud 9. I wouldn't even be worried beyond that because I started to see how time really is kind of an illusion. There's just this moment here. And if tonight you have a roof over your head and food to eat, you are taken care of. Tomorrow will take care of itself. And that's not a cliche. That's really true. So I wouldn't say I'm fearless, but I mean, I have so much less fear.
And you've really learned to live in the present in a non-cliche sense. You've honestly, you grok what it means to live in this moment, this nanosecond.
If I didn't, and sometimes I don't, my whole body goes into extreme discomfort. Like if I allow some negative thought to come in, it kills me. It just wipes me. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. It's really painful, really, really painful. Because I'm very, very sensitive. But yeah, it's, there's still things because I don't think the process ever stops of like, you're always refining. There's always some trigger that'll come up and you'll be like, oh, and then I'll go, wait a minute, that's a trigger. You're okay. Remember what you've learned. You're okay. And then I calm down. So, I still have stuff, but I mean, it's so much expanded from what it was. And I feel so free and so optimistic and so like I'm not living the same fears of most people are. I feel, I mean, like I was telling you, if I had, like right now I have $1.27 or something, I don't know. And I have to buy food and stuff, and I don't know how I'm eating tomorrow. I mean, I do have some food here, but not all the meals. And I need clothes and all these things. I'm just like, whatever, it's so it doesn't, I just know it's going to happen. So I just, and I think most people would not be very comfortable with that situation. So right. I do think that I'm living really in the present and with a lot, almost, I mean, I know the worst is behind me. That message has come through very clearly. Like, okay, it isn't about you ad nauseum doing these horrendous things. That was this first 10, 11 years. I've said to you, this is only the start of this journey. It was it was just undoing all my limiting beliefs and fears. And it was very miraculous, but now it's just so loving, so much more loving and so much more giving. And I have moments where it kind of goes, oh, there's a thing. I got to look at that. But it's near, the intensity is like night and day.
Right.
So everyone has doing that. I think that's the same with you, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. I've gone down my own difficult path, but it's a completely different storyline than yours. I'm a different person. I've got different ancestral lineage. I've got different astrology chart. We've all got our own versions of what you're going through. So yeah, I think everybody's going to be able to
better, in your life. It seems like things are starting to,
Absolutely, yeah, because I've pushed through. I haven't, I'm not saying it was always willing, but if you do resist, as we were talking earlier, the universe kind of beats you in the head with a 2x4. So, all right, I don't resist anymore, and I allow it to move forward. And now I'm seeing a completely new future that I never would have dreamed. Well, actually, I would have dreamed it, but I never would have thought it could actually happen. And now things are really unfolding. So let's circle back now because we're about to wrap this up to the conversation with you and Glenna Dietrich. Glenna, who's no longer physical, but I feel her presence as we speak. Looking back on those fateful hours when you and Glenna were recording the interview with the universe, and you thought at the time you knew what it meant. Looking back, what do you think over the past few years? What do you think you would have done if you'd had any idea what the guides were telling you was going to happen?
I'm glad that I wasn't told, because when you're anticipating something, and the thing is, I'm very empathic, so I was kind of always could feel it when it was a really challenging moment was coming. I could feel it, which is not necessarily a good thing. I just feel like they told me repeatedly, what you're going to do is going to take enormous courage. And if I had known some of the depths that I was going to go, I mean, there's no way. And like I said before, if I thought it was just about me, I'm inspired because they told me this is massively important. There's no more important job on that. This is massively important, because people had a tendency to treat me really like not so good because I didn't have money, and I couldn't really explain why I didn't have it. But I knew inside, and I still know to this day, that how important this is for the whole. And so they said, you have this power. You came in with all this power. And they even said, you wanted to kind of look at the misuse of power, and I've had it through my whole life, and even especially in the journey, where I would witness the misuse of power so that I would make sure that I would never misuse my power, because they said, you are very powerful because you understand that the old ways will not work. You know that they won't work. And you know that the only way forward is to you're like a trailblazer, like with my friend in New York, it's like, you're like a jackhammer, like breaking up the hard, and it's really challenging to like blaze that trail that hasn't really been blazed to that level. But as far as the future, I mean, my feeling has always been that I'm on this planet to learn and to demonstrate what is possible in human form. And we have not even touched. The limiting beliefs, once they start falling away, for me and for everybody, we are going to be shocked at what is possible. And the guide said that we've already gone way beyond what they expected. As far as they said, they were so amazed that the whole universe is watching in awe with their non-physical mouths open, because we have walked through such darkness into the light. So take heart, because it is an amazing moment, and we have gone beyond already what was expected of us in this time period. So there's so much more that's possible with the body. The reversal of aging, I've lived that for years. The physical body does not need to decline. We're going from a carbon-based body to a crystalline light body. That's what they told me. And the earth herself is making that same journey. So it's a really extraordinary time to be embodied.
Right. Yeah, let's, like I said, we're almost out of time, but I do want to touch on that a bit. You really have gone through, in addition to all of the social challenges, your own physical body has been shifting, because you've had as you said, your body's very sensitive, and you've been very sensitive to certain kinds of food. So
Yes.
even if you've been offered, here is food, sometimes it was food that you couldn't eat without becoming sick, but you're overcoming that.
Well, there's definitely a change. I mean, I still have a little bit of the symptoms, but I would say 80 to 90% at certain moments less, like all of a sudden. I mean, I'm here in this convent, and they serve food that I can't do, foods that they're very high in carbs, and especially sugar, even though I crave it desperately. I do really good with the high protein diet, and I've been that way my whole life. But over the since I've been here, I've been doing really intense meditation and inner work. And, like I always do, but more so because I'm not moving all around. And some certain channelings came in, not the guides, but some channelings came to me. I knew they were for me, about this, about how to call into question everything. How does this body, which is made of God, the body is not a physical, it's a God force energy. That's all it is. So how could this body carry a limitation? That's actually impossible. It's actually literally impossible. It's just that it's a belief system. And so I started calling into question, how could this be possible? If I am one with God, and I am God, I am infinite. And there's only this moment, there's nothing here. I got this quote, there's nothing here more than a nanosecond old. We think it is, but it isn't. How could I have any type of limitation? I'm calling it into question. I'm calling it into question. All of a sudden, I stopped having these symptoms. Not 100% yet, but I mean, like really lightning fast. Like yesterday, I told you, it kind of went a little crazy. I ate 2 huge pieces of cake and nothing. I had no symptoms. I don't recommend that, but I mean, a little bit, but I mean, there's shifting happening. And I knew that it had to go through all of that, because your body is an outpicturing of your mind. So I knew it had to, a lot of illness and a lot of things have to do with fear. Mm-hmm. Fear is the main factor that we battle in this, so having rid myself of so many fears, I can see that there's physical transformation happening. And now I was told in the interview that this is happening. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are making a transformation. Our bodies are having an awakening. And that's never been before. There's been awakening of a consciousness, and then people drop the body and go on. But now the body's making its own transformation. So it's really, really profound shifts and healings taking place. But fear, if you're in fear, you won't, there's no healing that can be had. It's just, right. Don't beat yourself up, but face it, walk through it, ask for help. Ask for help. That's a really important point. You won't receive help unless you ask, because we live in a free will universe. So ask, I want help with this, and I am willing to, do what you guide me to do, higher self,
Right.
Lovingly, please.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been just an amazing series of conversations. Elizabeth, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us from the other side of the world. I think we should probably go ahead and wrap it up, but I also want to just acknowledge Glenna Dietrich, who was the channel through which the interview came through. Again, you can download the Interview with the Universe with Elizabeth Ann Hill and Glenna Dietrich. You can also download Elizabeth's book. These are all free. And then you can also donate to her journey via PayPal. All of the links are below. Elizabeth, do you have any final words?
No, I mean, all amounts help. Anything helps, because every day I'm in a state of, welcoming whatever help comes. And I don't know where I'm going to be going next. So who knows, maybe somebody will, because I know going forward, I'm going to be giving talks. And so who knows what that's going to lead to. But I would like to thank everybody who's listening, who has, not just with money, but especially with the money, because we all know how we feel about money, sharing with me over and over and over again. I'm so grateful. I couldn't do it without, and the people who have offered me places to stay and food and support, like what Lisa has done over and over. So I just want to say thank you, because you are playing an important role in this awakening by helping me, and many others I'm sure are receiving help in their journeys as well. So
All right. Once again, Elizabeth Ann Hill, Twin Souls 444 at facebook.com. That's how you can help her out. That's how you can download her offerings. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
thank you for having me.
And that's where our conversation ends. Once again, you can download a copy of Twin Souls for free, and also the MP3 files of the interview by visiting Elizabeth on Facebook. The link is below. You can also listen to the interview recordings on YouTube here on the Mind Yourself channel. Again, the links are below. And if you're moved to support her journey or would like to offer an energy exchange for the downloads, you can PayPal Elizabeth at her email address, twinsouls444@gmail.com, or at the link below. I hope you've enjoyed this series of interviews with Elizabeth Ann Hill, and that you've come away with a renewed sense of trust that the universe has your back. Thanks for watching. I'm Lisa Bunnies. See you next time.